As always, we start off with Jayson with the fact of the day. Jayson, what do you have for us?
Well, you know what, Connor? I was going to do a Kyle Schwarber on-base streak stat, but since it ended, I'm pivoting. I was watching Jesus Luzardo and trying to think of how do we document how good this guy has been. So here's what I came up with. He's 9 starts into his career as a Philly. He's 4-0. His ERA is 2.00 on the nose. So here's the question I ask myself. How many other veteran starters have the Phillies traded for who then in their first 9 starts had an ERA this good? I found 2 in the expansion era. Do you want to try to guess? It's pretty recent.
It's pretty recent? Is it Lorenzen?
No.
I'd say Roy Halladay.
In his first how many starts?
First 9 starts.
9 starts.
ERA of 2 or less.
Halladay and Lee.
Hey, that's great. Roy Halladay is correct. You know what his ERA was after 9 starts? How about 1.64?
That guy was pretty good.
How great was he?
He was awesome.
And the other guy did it that year, but it was not Cliff Lee. At the deadline, if you remember, they traded for Roy Oswalt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
his first 9 starts were unbelievable. 6-1 with a 1.98. And now here comes Jesus Luzardo to join that club. What do you think, boys? Is that going to work?
That's pretty impressive. Jayson, you come up with something, and every time it puts a smile on people's faces.
It's the goal.
Well, you know what's coming next, don't you? Pete Rose, reinstatement. I got to get your thoughts on it right off the bat.
Well, I've been writing and talking a lot about this in the last 24 hours, obviously. I guess my big takeaway, Ricky, is I never thought that Pete Rose's induction day at the Hall of Fame would ever happen until now. I just had never seen any indication that Rob Manfred was ready to reinstate this guy. But now that he has, here's my conclusion. Isn't he basically telling us he's served his time? I feel like that's what this was, right? There's no other impact of reinstating him after his death. He'll never work in baseball, never be an ambassador for baseball. The only impact is it makes him eligible for the Hall of Fame. And so if you're telling us this guy served his time, what do you think? I mean, I don't know who will be on the committee that will vote on him, but
I think you don't have a choice.
Yeah, if you're just voting on Pete Rose, the baseball player, is there a debate?
No, there can't be. I mean, there absolutely can't be with the hits leader. The question is now, Jayson, I'm sure you've tackled this already, but what does this say about some other guys that are not in great standing with the Hall? A guy, for example, Barry Bonds is going to come to mind for a lot of people.
Yeah, I addressed that in that column, too. Look, I think we all know this. When you open the door and Pete Rose barges through it, who's next to come knocking? And I think Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, that crowd is all lined up. And, here's my logic. I know these are different crimes. This is different. There's a whole different set of circumstances because Bonds and Clemens, for example, were on the writer's ballot, never got elected. Were on the committee ballot, never got elected. So Pete Rose has never been considered. I get it. But I feel like it was always easier to keep them out if the guy who had the most hits of anyone who ever lived was also out. And if he gets in, then are we going to then say, well, the guy who hit the most home runs in history doesn't belong? That'd be Barry. The pitcher who won the most Cy Youngs in history doesn't belong? That'd be Clemens. The guy who broke Roger Maris's record, the greatest record in sports, doesn't belong? That's Mark McGwire. I think this is a really slippery slope, and Rob Manfred just opened the door for all of us to go slip sliding down that slope.
legitimately a Pandora's box situation, and we'll be intrigued to see how it all plays out. Now, we were just joined by our TV audience on NBC Sports Philadelphia because they had Phillies post-game, but that's over, and you saw the game today, Jayson. The Phils with a 2-1 victory over the Cardinals. Any big takeaways from what happened earlier today at Citizens Bank Park?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that just keeps jumping out at me is how this team keeps finding ways to come back and win games late against the best relief pitchers in baseball. I think here are a couple things that document it. This is the 6th time that they've won a game that they trailed after 6 innings. They've only lost one game like that. And they've scored the 8th most runs in the whole sport from the 7th inning on. And, that's a sign, I think, of a team that competes. Now, I got one other little tidbit for you. Jordan Romano comes out of the pen in the 9th inning, faces 3 guys, strikes them all out. You would not believe the last Phillies right-hander to get a save in a game where he struck out all 3 hitters he faced.
It has to be Brad Lidge?
No, it's more recent than that.
Okay, Hector Neris.
You'll never remember him saving a game.
Hector Neris.
Junior Marte.
No Junior Marte.
Of course it was, right?
Yep.
Yeah, might as well be. All right, so this team is getting better as we speak, and they're playing good baseball right now. What does it take for them to be one of the elite teams again?
Well, I think you're going to need one more reliever who, when you bring him in, when you've got the lead, you want to say drive home safely because you know the game is over. I do think that's one of the things that we need to look at. But I think I'm interested to see how this offense develops as this season goes along. It's been interesting to watch this season unfold because, their process is so much better than it was last year. Their chase rate is way down, the number of pitches they chase outside the strike zone. Their contact rate is up. Pitches per plate appearance is up significantly. And I know that it hasn't always worked out because they haven't hit a bunch of long balls. As the weather warms up, don't you think that'll happen? As Bryce Harper warms up, don't you think that'll happen? And I think the one big complaint that everybody had about this team after the most recent Octobers was the way they went about at bats in big spots. And you're seeing a difference. And this is the kind of difference that works, that over the long haul allows you to score more runs and do more damage late, put more runners on base. That's where runs scored come from. And we haven't spent enough time talking about how much better they are at the process of hitting, from the top of the lineup to the bottom.
Well, that's great stuff, Jayson. Hopefully we see that process on display in Game 3 of the series, Game 2 of the doubleheader at 6:15 tonight. But we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And we'll be with you next week for some more great stats, facts, and, the latest on your Fighting Phils. Thanks, man.
Look forward to it.
Appreciate it there. Jayson Stark.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for watching, listening in. I want you to like, subscribe, do what you have to do to kind of stay on focus with us. Also, we also have plenty of other content that goes on here on YouTube. So go to that, like that, subscribe to that. And also you can catch us on the afternoon show 2 to 6, Monday through Friday, 97.5 The Fanatic, 97.5thefanatic.com, and NBC Sports Philadelphia.